Can I get a quick check? Raise your hands if you're wearing clothes. Excellent. It seems we have found a common ground already. Every day, we wake up, open our eyes, jump out of the bed, get into the shower, and put on a fresh pair of clothes without a second thought. Our workout t-shirt, our daytime t-shirt, our bedtime t-shirt. We change our clothes up to 3 times a day. Unknowingly, we have become characters of an untold story, a story that involves an astonishing amount of fabric. Fabric that weaves together our economy, our environment, and our collective future. What if I told you the clothes that you're wearing today, your old t-shirts, the ones at the bottom of your drawers, or perhaps forgotten at the back of your wardrobe, hold the potential to change the world? I grew up in very interesting circumstances. One that taught me a very different connection with waste. A little over 30 years ago, my late father set up a waste management company that supplies waste paper to recyclers. As a 3-year-old, I used to go to my father's warehouse and jump on mountains of cardboard, paper, and books, just like Uncle Scrooge. For those of you who don't know Uncle Scrooge, he was this billionaire duck who used to store tons of gold coin in his giant vault. He used to swim beautifully in his endless pool of gold coin. In the warehouse, my 3-year-old brain used to imagine that waste paper as my pool of gold coins. While I don't have pictures of me doing it, I can show you my 3-year-old nephew having the best time of his life. Don't worry, this is all safe. His mother and my mother are watching his every move. And honestly, all of this waste paper is actually money in the form of a useful raw material that recyclers would pay for. Today, paper has a very well-established recycling industry with recycling rates of up to 70%, along with other materials such as metal and glass. But it is not the same in the fashion industry. Today, sadly, less than 1% of our old clothes are recycled back into new clothes. Old clothes that used to cover bodies of 8 billion people are sadly covering our precious land in landfills. The problem is so big that it can now be seen from space. This is Chile's Atacama Desert, which is a fashion landfill. Every year, in the UK alone, we throw away enough clothes to fill the Wembley Stadium 17 times over. That's about 12.5 million tons of old clothes that are no longer wearable or cherished. While repairing, reusing, and keeping our clothes in use for longer is important, but these actions alone cannot entirely solve the problem. Please don't get me wrong. Extending the use of our clothes is important, but our modern society and human behavior is more complex. You see, something very interesting is happening now. More and more people are able to buy new clothes. Soon, there will be 5.5 billion people joining the global middle class who will be the primary buyers of new clothes. Their desire to look good, feel confident, and express themselves in their own unique style is a significant factor that makes them buy more and more clothes. And that's perfectly understandable. And not to forget that our clothes are not immortal. At some point, they do reach end of life and demand. So now, in order to serve the growing population and replace the worn out clothes, more clothes will have to be made. And that's a big problem. You see, producing clothes requires a vast amount of resources. For instance, Just to make a single cotton t-shirt, it takes over 2,000 liters of water. That's about as much water you will drink in 2.5 years. So we are talking about using loads of water, land, and energy to produce all the clothes that we need to meet the upcoming demand. It's a very difficult situation. Think about our world as a stage where humans, nature, and industry all play their part, often in competition for resources. We, as people, require materials for our daily living. Nature requires these resources to maintain its balance and thrive. Industries seek resources to create the products and services. This competition for resources becomes increasingly fierce when we, people, need food, water, and material. Nature requires sustenance for its ecosystem, and industries seek the same resources for production and manufacturing. Consider the sheer magnitude of the fashion industry. It produces over 100 billion garments every year. By 2030, our demand for consumption is going to rise by over 60%, which is almost equal to additional 500 billion t-shirts. By the end of this decade, it is going to put an immense pressure on our planet. It will affect the balance between these three crucial elements. It is now more important than ever to find a solution in which human, nature, and industries can coexist. And the solution for this problem lies in your wardrobe. Your old t-shirt can actually change the world. Please allow me to tell you more about the trousers that I'm wearing today. These are comfortable, modern, and fit for today's style. And it might surprise you that in their previous life, they were actually a jumper. You might be wondering, how did that happen? You see, they went through this magical process of reincarnation by adding unicorn tears. Just kidding. So it all started, ooh, what happened over here? Okay. Are we, yeah? Yeah. So it all started with effective collection of unwanted clothes. Then they extracted all the other materials such as buttons and zippers. Then these fabrics were sorted based on their color so that we don't need a single drop of water to dye them. These fabrics were then grinded into fibers. By the way, these fibers are the building block of all clothes that we wear. Fibers are then spun into yarn, which we weave into fabrics that we cut and sew to make the clothes that we wear today. So this process that I just showed you is called mechanical recycling. And there are more innovative ways of recycling our old clothes, such as chemical recycling, enzymatic recycling, and even upcycling. It is very easy to get caught up in the debate that which method is better. Should we be buying clothes? Or even using turmeric for dyeing? I can stand here and talk for hours about how our clothes should be made. Trust me, I'm a fashion nerd and I've got 2 degrees in fashion technology and innovations to prove that. But nothing can beat the fact that these pants were made without a single drop of water or depending upon our resources. Just your old t-shirts and jumpers. Let me share something that might surprise you. Today, the fashion industry is responsible for 10% of global carbon emissions. That is more than the shipping and the airline industry combined. It is huge, over 2 billion tons of carbon emissions. What's even more surprising is that 70% of these emissions come from the making and processing of virgin raw materials. But here's the hopeful part. If we get better at recycling, we hold the power to cut these emissions by up to 80%. Just imagine the difference we can create by properly recycling our old clothes. Each one of us hold the power to be a catalyst for change, not just in our wardrobe, but in the world. By embracing simple practices, such as giving away our old clothes at the nearest collection point, we can turn this fashion industry into a positive force for transformation. Small actions, such as choosing recycled garment over anything else, will create waves of collective impact. It will remove our dependence on the natural resources and ease the pressure of the planet. Instead of harvesting our lands, we will be harvesting our wardrobes. Instead of looking at mountains of waste in landfills, we will be looking at pools of valuable treasure in which we all can swim, just like Uncle Scrooge. So remember, when the time comes to part ways with your old clothes, think about the difference it carries with itself. Thank you.